it going? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review I want to look at the Play Arts Kai Mass Effect 3 Garrus Vicarian figure. Probably my favorite character out of all the Mass Effect characters, so I'm extra happy to have this figure, and it actually turns out that it's a pretty darn good figure, so I'm happy to talk about it. Let's start off with the height. Shepard was a little under 9 inches tall, this guy is about 9.5, so that kind of explains why Shepard was so small, but still Garrus is a little bit small for my liking as well. Still a good size though, obviously, and he just is a great looking figure overall, as you can see. Pretty much spot on for the game, and just really a nice looking figure, even if you're not a fan of the game. Accessory wise, he comes with 2 gun hands, trigger finger hands, so that's his left hand, his right hand's holding the gun right now, and 2 open hands, as you can see there and there. Really a great amount of detail on these hands, from the texturing just for that under part, and then the armor plating, just really nice. Comes with 2 guns. We have the Vindicator right here, really nicely done, good paint app, good sculpt, and the Incisor, which looks even better, really spot on for the game. Great looking weapon, and they did a really good job with it, and he holds it very well too. You're gonna have to heat the hands up a little bit to get the fingers around the trigger guard and everything, but it pays off because he holds it really well. That does it for the accessories. As far as the paint app goes, everything's really well done. There's a nice blend of glossy metallic pieces to textured pieces. Just looking at the face, you can see that the paint app is done nicely. There's probably a little bit overshading right there on the top of his head, but still it looks really good. It's definitely recognizable as Garrus. Everything is just really well done. So you're definitely not going to think that this guy doesn't look good on the shelf. Really well done. Same thing with the sculpt. As you can see, everything's just about perfect where it belongs. Mine's a little bit defective right here. This piece that's kind of weirdly shapen is supposed to look like this piece, so I'm getting a replacement of this guy so that I can get that swapped out. But other than that, everything is really good. I don't have any complaints. The sculpt of the head, pretty much perfect. Can't say the same for Shepard, but looks really good. So let's talk about articulation. So the head does not have a piece of articulation at the top of the neck. Since he's got that weird kind of bird-shaped head, it only has the articulation at the bottom of the neck. So it's fairly limited, especially due to that golden collar in there. So it doesn't have a whole lot of motion up and down. Side to side is very limited. That's it. But then of course the rotation's fine. So it's not horrible, but that's the way it is. One thing I want to point out is the visor is a separate piece, so that's done really well. I wish it was a little bit more translucent for the blue, but still, that's okay. He's got really nice shoulder articulation, which is okay because the armor piece for his shoulder has its own ball peg, so that never gets in the way, no matter how you want to pose him, so that's really good. His shoulder has this nice pivot in here. It doesn't swing out like a lot of the other figures, which is really good because it looks fine no matter how you pose it. So this is kind of reminiscent of the NECA Street Fighter figures. If you have those, this works the same way. It's basically just a pivot where this piece moves inside like that. And then it's a standard ball disc on that. It's really stiff, but you can get plenty range of motion out of that. Bicep swivel up here. Standard elbow joint. It rotates at the bicep and at the forearm and has a hinge there. Same type of joint for the wrist. This one's really loose, so another reason I'm getting a replacement piece. Focus. So that's the type of wrist that rotates like that. As you can see, it's kind of coming apart there. Torso joint, at least a single ball peg. Pretty good range of motion. It's a little bit limited due to the bulk of the armor, but it's not too much of a problem. You can really get good range of motion out of it, so it's fine with me. This lower part of the torso is connected to the crotch by a ball peg, so plenty range of motion there. Huge amount of range, so that's really good. And then the hips it's kind of like a ball peg, only it's got a ratchet built in to go front and back, which I don't care for ratcheting personally, unless it's super fine like on the McFarlane figures, But this ratchet's got such a big gap in between, it's kind of tricky to get him to pose the way you want him to. The hip piece is floating soft plastic so it doesn't get in the way of anything. The hips obviously go out like this. That's not ratcheted on these like it is on the Devil May Cry figures. And there is a thigh swivel built in. It's fairly limited, but it's probably good enough. I don't know if they swivel at the top of the boot here, or top of the thigh piece. I mean, I wasn't able to get them to move, but I don't think they do, but it might, so don't hold me to that. If you find out that it moves, it might do that. I don't know for sure. Mine's stuck. If it does work, mine's stuck. The knees are double jointed as normal, so that moves there, and then it moves like this down here too, which is kind of weird because he's got that kind of reverse knee thing going on, and to be honest, I don't know in the game if it's supposed to bend more forward or more back or not, the way the second joint there works. So I don't know. The way it's curved, I would think it would bend this way and not back, but either way, if you just use the top joint, you're going to be fine. And it doesn't look goofy on this figure like it does other ones due to that reverse knee that he has. So that's fine with me. Again, the only problem is that it's ratcheted, and they're kind of big intervals. So the ankle is the same as the wrist and the elbows, where it rotates at the top of the ankle and at the bottom. And then it's ratcheted as well, but it's not super tight of a ratchet. And again, it kind of has big intervals, so getting him to stand is a little tricky, especially since he's going to be putting a lot of stress on it, having that reverse joint. He's going to bend like this a lot, so be careful while you're posing him. He does have a cut joint in the foot so that it can rotate like that. He has these flat pieces here on his feet. I don't know if they were there in the game or not, but they are here on the figure, so it does help him to stand a little bit. But again, due to the ratcheting and due to the sculpt and general design of the figure, it's going to be a little tricky to have him take a nice normal stance. If you pose him, you can get a little bit more balance, you know, not just standing straight up. You'll have a better chance at standing him up this way. It is tricky though, due to all the ratcheting, but it's not too bad if you don't have him standing straight up and down. So I do like this figure a lot better than Shepard. Even with the flaws it has right now, before I get it replaced, I'd be happy to own it still. So that's fine with me. I definitely recommend this. It's one of my favorite Play Arts figures, actually. Maybe it's just because I like Garrus. Maybe it's the design. I don't know. But it is really, really nice. So I do recommend it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, more custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.